whether it's knee issues or lower back issues, sometimes the hips have a part to play in the issues that you might be experiencing there. So why is hip mobility important? Well, it's important because you need to be able to move and access those degrees of freedom, whether you walk, run, squat, jump, golf, doesn't matter. Having more degrees of freedom and the ability to use those degrees of freedom is going to benefit you exponentially and benefit your longevity for the rest of your life. All right, so the very first thing I like to prescribe for my clients is hip CARs. I think hip CARs is a great entry point for helping people understand what their hips are capable of. And so it just takes your hip through its fullest range of available motion, and that gives your hips and all your tissues surrounding the hip joint an ability to be nourished, get the tissue and the nervous system aware of the space available, and just helps you understand the overall fundamental movements of your hips. Check out this video as I show you how to do hip CARs, and you can start integrating that into your training. All right, the very first thing we have to understand is that running is a very linear sport. So in that sport, the hips are required to go into flexion and some degree of extension over and over and over again. And so our hips become more efficient and more accommodated at doing that motion. The hip, although it can do that motion, that's not its fundamental objective. The hip's objective is a lot of different variable movements. And the hip joint is a ball and socket, so the ball and socket needs to rotate in that joint, and it needs to rotate well in order for you to have a healthy joint. I always believe that the worst posture is the posture you spend the most time in. And so it's not about one good posture or one bad posture, it's about what posture do I spend the vast majority of my time in, and how do I supplement that with other things in order to help improve my overall life. The very first thing I say is do hip CARs. Why? Because hip CARs provide the fundamental movement of the joint, which is rotation. It takes it through all the variable movements of the hip joint. So it gives the joint nourishment and it allows the bone to move freely or within the ranges that you have available. A hip CAR looks like this. We start out standing nice and tall. I'm going to bring the leg across into adduction. So I'm trying to squeeze here. I'm going to scoop into external rotation. I'm going to take as much external rotation as I can as I move through flexion. Once I run out of room in external rotation and flexion, I'm going to begin to move out of external rotation and scoop in a little bit more flexion. I'm going to move out into abduction, so moving and opening the gate. Once I can no longer open the gate any further than that, I'm going to change positions here. I'm going to begin to internally rotate. So I'm trying to find as much internal rotation as I have there without dumping through the hips here. So I'm internally rotating, moving my hip through its fullest range of motion. I'm sneaking out some extension here. I got to create a little bit more space here because of the bar. And I'm sneaking out a little bit of extension through there as I bring the leg back to join the other knee. Once I join the other knee, I'm going to move back into extension, which we have very little of, so squeezing this stuff here. And then I'm going to begin to abduct, so bringing the leg away from the midline. And then I'm going to externally rotate. So I'm externally rotating back up into that flexion. Okay, now that I'm in that flexion, I'm going to bring my leg back across, sneak out some more external rotation, adduct, so I'm squeezing that together, and back down. So I teach my clients to move through that on a regular basis, daily, pre-run, post-run, all of that, because we want to remind the body of its fundamental movements. We want to remind the nervous system what the fundamental movement of your joint is. It's not to cycle, it's not to run, it's not to do all of those linear things that we like doing. It's to move freely through rotation. Add that to your daily routine, add that to your pre and post training, and just sprinkle it in throughout the rest of your life and watch how things change.